now we're going to move on to the Ragnarok Spring GT. We're going to be looking at the Green Tide list, I believe. Yes. So in this GT, there was 2 Ork players that ran the Green Tide, and I think they still had something good to learn. They had different matchups, but who they lost to was also different. So let's take a look at the Green Tide. This is the one that was shaking up the meta, scaring everybody with their win rate, even though Space Wolves were right there next to him. Let's take a look at Jacob Black's list real quick. We have the boys are back in town. Ghazghkull Thraka, triple Painboys, 3 triple Warbosses, 1 weird boy. He has Ruckus Warcaller for one of the Warbosses, Furious Show Off, and then Bloodthirsty Belligerent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 max unit of boys, 1 Gretchen, the minimum size mount for Meganobs for the Gaz, and then 2 units of Storm Boys. Bam, neat, thin, good. What do I think? I really just wonder, like I spoke about earlier with the Bully Boys, are infiltrators, scouts, stuff like that going to be more of a factor to try to delay us? In that case, do you really want, Gaz or no Snickra? I wonder, and I understand the point of Gaz. The Gaz is so that you actually just kill something, so you have the reliability to kill. There's some armies that Gaz just can't reliably kill what's going on. Not re-rolling hits is a factor for the lethal aura and blob. So is Gaz bringing his value necessarily on this list? I'm not sure. But I'm open to it because that's pretty much where my list looked like as well, where I was like, do I want Gaz? Do I not want Gaz? What am I putting here? So let's take a look at what Jacob Black went into real quick. We have Chaos Space Marines, Master of Possession, Sorcerer and Terminator Armor, Legionnaire, Chaos Rhino, Chaos Bikers, Predator Destructor, 2 of them, Chaos Terminator, a big brick, Forge Fiends, Hellbrute, Possessed, Warp Talons. So this has Possessed that could put a decent dent in some Ork Boy bricks. Terminators can put a decent brick or dent in Ork Boy bricks. It's just you still out OC it. And what I'm saying here is there's no infiltrating either. So you're not really delaying the Green Tide. As we know, people are going to teleport that weird boy forward and try to take up. I don't think they have enough focus fire volume here to punch through a Green Tide, and they got ran over for that. So let's take a look at I'm not saying, mind you, I'm not saying Chaos Space Marines can't. I'm saying that list could. So next we have his second matchup. So I thought this was interesting because Death Guard is seen as one of our hardest matchups as a whole, and he ran into Death Guard. So let's see what version of Death Guard he ran into. Seems like a pretty strong version, as he has Mortarion. He still has Typhus. He has 2 Biologists, Putrefiers, and Foul Blight Spawn. So he brought the tools for fighting first and for criticals. He brought 2 big bricks of Marines and then 2 Death Shroud Terminator unit, followed by a Land Raider. This one comes with glass cannons, though. 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, a Rhino, triple Nurglings. So he did actually have the infiltrators. So then again, as I said before, how are these Nurglings used? If the Death Guard player really understood what he should do with these Nurglings, he has 2 options. One is to place all the Nurglings in all the lanes and try to delay the trucks and hope he goes first so he can walk right up to the line in front of them. Or B, he sticks them near his Death Guard units and tries to stack -2 to hit on them. Did he even choose the -1 to hit? Did he choose reduced armor saves? But in Boys, it wouldn't really matter, so it's probably -1 to hit. Therefore, stacking them with the Boys would mean the Boys just wouldn't be able to hit anything because it's -1 ballistic skill / weapon skill and then -1 to hit from the Nurglings. So did the Death Guard players stack these 2 debuffs to make it -2 to hit to make the Boys just totally whiff? I'm not sure. That's something that to always keep in mind when you're going into this in your idea in your head. Or did he choose, I'm going to throw them in front, try to delay the trucks, and then end up going second and just getting his Nurglings ran over. The Boys got good charges, and then the Boys ended up just getting on all the objectives and filling it up. So, that's something to keep in mind, right? As for what this does, it's one of those things where when you're thinking of the Death Guard list, when you're thinking about the Green Tide list, you're thinking of, I'm standing in the primary for 3 turns and not letting you score, and I'm seeking to my fixed secondaries, cleanse and deploy. Therefore, if you have Plague Burst Crawlers, Land Raiders, Plague Burst Crawlers sitting in the back, not really getting involved, that's a factor, especially if Mortarion, for some reason right here, did choose to babysit those guns. So I would hope he didn't. Throwing Morty up the field into the Green Tide would be a factor. This could be a very hard matchup, and I do question what the Death Guard player did, but it's still a hard matchup for you guys to think of. But he did put up 90 points into him, so great job by you. Or maybe we're overestimating the Death Guard's volume of output against the 5-up invuln, and Orks can just survive it, right? At least the Green Tide could just survive it. So he said we got Space Wolves, Stormlands Task Force. So again, we have the Space Wolves. Now in this case, this is the one game that he lost, and I'll just say it right now: the next Ork list we followed also lost to necessarily a Space Wolf, or didn't also lose, but other Green Tide lists we're going to go over also lost to Space Wolf. So he has Herald Deathwolf, Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf, another one, and then a Wolf Lord. So not as thick on the characters, not tripling down on all the character buffs. Assault Intercessors, 2 of them with jump packs, a Basilisk Dread, 2 Gladiator Lancers, an Inceptor Squad, Infiltrator Squad, Scout, Thunderwolf Cavalry, Wolfen. So I'm going to figure this out myself. Gets Green Tide into Stormlands. How does it look? Well, who goes first? It seems to be a huge factor. Can I lock you in Wolf Jail? Can I clean up all the space so that you can't weird boy into me? These are things I really, really want to know. And there could be a chance that Space Wolves just got blended through with us re-rolling wounds into them and them only having a 3-up armor, 4-up armor save into all those attacks. Could be ridiculous. Maybe Gaz did come into a factor in this matchup, as his 4 flat damage can swing these Thunderwolf cavalries off him, but in this case it didn't. So that's why I always wonder, is Gaz really make that difference? As they could just 4-up info on all of Gaz's lethals don't get re-rolled. You could just not put enough into it, and Space Wolves do have the volume to just shoot through you as well. So in this case, I am slightly wondering, did he just end up going second? Space Wolves just filled up the whole table and then overcame him. So Space Wolves are the meta bully right now, and this is why I think now, at least as of this weekend at the moment, and that's why I'm really just in mind keeping, do we want infiltrating? What about our scouts? What's going on here? And in Green Tide, I mean, picking up space is a big factor, my gets. So Space Wolves are where it's at for now. Just losing to them isn't anything bad, but Space Wolves were trying to fight all the Orks this weekend as we were fighting for #1 placing. Now he went into Hypercrypt into his 4th game after losing to the Space Wolves. Hypercrypt still here. Chronomancer, Katana the Nightbringer, Hexmark Destroyer, Technomancer, Catan Shard, Transcendent Shard. And then we have Immortals, Canoptic Wraith, Deathmark, Flayed Ones, 2 Destroyers, Heavy Destroyer, Tomb Blades. So he was going straight up into, I have a bunch of small units that I jump all over the field and slow you down. Deathmarks wouldn't be as much value here. And this is where 2 units of Wraiths, but not being in the court, could make a difference, because you could just still actually get chewed through in this detachment as well. And you're not punching anything. You're still not, you're definitely not punching anything, because you're not getting rerolls to hit. So in this case, you know, the Green Tide can actually overwhelm them, putting a bunch of volumes of attack into them, even winning on 5s, and it's just dumb volume works until they feel no pains and they're just straight up 4-up invuln. And you just out OC them, which is usually something that they want to do to you. Nightbringer as well doesn't kill them fast enough. Transcendent doesn't kill them fast enough. And when you have enough, and like you said, Hypercurse behind you, nothing personal. Yeah, Green Tide all over you where you get no board space, nothing personal, which is what happened in this case with Jacob Black. And then before we go into this last one, he goes, we have a $2 super chat. Whoa! Terrence Watkins. Can you explain turn 1 sticky again? So turn 1 sticky. So at the end of your command phase, your boys will now make it so the objective is under your control, even if they leave, because it's worded as at the end of your command phase instead of like other armies. Let's say demons, for example, I believe theirs is at the beginning of the command phase. Therefore, I don't believe you can hold it because you don't contest anything at the beginning of the game. But in the Ork Boys case, you do have it, because at the end of the command phase and at the end of any phase, you can take control of an objective. So in this case, it happens, and the boys can sticky it, and then they can move right off that. You know, for the most part on our home objective, I still do advise Grots, don't give up your free CP rolling, and you still don't want to give away your home objective because enemies can drop right on it. But if you're moving forward with Green Tide bullies for some reason and you leave a little dude there, they will sticky if somehow they clear you by the end of the game or something. Then they have to go get you, which is what pressure is the name of the game with Orks, and why I'm considering commandos for the Green Tide. So thank you for your super chat question. And then we're going to go into the last matchup for Jacob Black real quick, and I'll get back in the chats. It is the Dark Angels Inner Circle Task Force. So Terminator, Ancient, both of them, two Terminator Ancients, Azrael, Librarian, Terminator Armor, and then Raven Wing Command Squad, followed by Intercessors with Deathwing Knights, 2 5-man units, Land Raider Redeemers, Raven Wing Black Knights, which is a, I think this is the bikers, right? Yeah. And then another Raven Wing Black Knight, Raven Wing with the Dark Shroud, Scout, Terminator Assault Squad, Vanguard Veterans with jump packs, 2 of them. Boom, that's where it's at. What I will say is these Deathwing Knights prove to be quite problematic for Orks. A lot of wounds, reduced damage, in the Green Tide case, they could just take 2 up armor saves the whole game to you. The issue is they're not necessarily chewing up to you. They can try to jump turn 1 into you though. So that's something that you need to be aware of, that maybe not in this detachment. I think it is. I have to look back into their rules if they can do it in the inner circle, but there is a strategy of taking a Deathwing Knight Terminator brick and just putting it in the middle of the table right off the bat. In that case, it could be hard to match up. But if you get there first, put enough bodies on there to auto-see them and keep the bodies up, they don't really put through you. They don't combine arms force necessarily good enough in this build that he has here. And everything else on his list, from the vanguards with jetpacks to the scout to the knights, the Blackwing Knights, the intercessors, all get chewed up by Boyz still. So Boyz only have an issue into 2 up armor saves and maybe big toughness things that are wounding them on 6s that still get good armor saves. Other than that, if you're stuck in a prolonged fight with the Boyz and we're re-rolling wounds, we can still mess you up. We can get an extra 3 inches in to pile in. It because even more damage that we can put into you on a different unit or stack it on the same unit and chew through something problematic. So shout out to the Raven Wing for trying, but he didn't get it. So Jacob Black, whoa, for going 4-1, and it's all good for the Space Wolves as they're really, really troublesome. And I know it's one of those things, man. You might have just gone second and they put you in Thunderwolf jail. I'm not sure, but I could see how that ends up happening. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!